Hi, welcome to the channel. Today's video, electric cars and can they tow caravans? Good question, I hear you ask.
It's alright.
It's Caravan vlog.
So a little while ago we were at a caravan site and I noticed that there was a caravan with a Tesla Model X parked beside it. Obviously it had towed the caravan there. A couple of times I heard the owner telling other caravanners how brilliant it was and how great it was to tow in and how quiet it was, etc. So I decided to look at it myself because, I mean, not that I'd get a Model X because I think they're on the bad side of £80,000. A Tesla could actually tow this caravan here. So this caravan here is a Bailey Cartagena, which is over 1600 kilograms MTPLM, unplated, unupgraded, without the plate upgraded. So can a Tesla tow that kind of caravan? I hear you ask. Of course, we're not the biggest of channels, so there's no way that Tesla would lend us a car to tow, or would they? You know, as I am an international caravan vlogger, England and France, maybe Tesla would lend me a car. Who knows? Musk? Oh, no, thanks for asking. It's actually Lynx Africa. We've got to try, haven't you? Of course, Tesla wouldn't lend us a tow car. So what I'm left with doing is looking at other vlogs. There's quite a few vlogs in the US of people towing trailers, horse boxes really, and some smaller like GoPod type caravans with a smaller Tesla. But I was interested specifically in the 100D, or the Model X as it's called now, because it had a higher range and a higher towing capacity. So I'll just check my notes here. So the Tesla Model X can tow, well, it can tow about £5,000, which they say in the US, which is about 2,250 kilograms, which is obviously enough to tow our Cartagena. Now, the world of electric cars is a jargon-riddled mystery to most people, me included. And one of the things you will find if you start looking is that everything looks really promising to start with, but things unravel quite rapidly when you start digging a little deeper. So this 2,250 kilograms that Tesla boasts does depend on what size wheels you have. Yeah, really. So if I was buying a Tesla and money was no object, I'd upgrade the wheels almost straight away. Standard 20 inch wheels, I would upgrade it to 22 inch because I would. However, if I were to upgrade to 22 inch, that takes it down to £3,000. I'll put what £3,000 is down here. Wouldn't be good enough for this. Well, might be just about good enough for this caravan if you didn't take into account the 85% rule. Now, the biggest thing to bear in mind with electric cars are their range. Now, with the Model X, it's about 300 miles range, not towing. Now, on these vlogs I've watched where people are experimenting with range on Teslas, they get there's a mixed kind of, well, all bad, but it is mixed. On average, I would say that if you're looking at 320 miles without towing, when you put something like this on the back of a Model X, it takes it down to around 100-mile range, which we frequent Brighton quite often, Brighton Caravan and Motorhome Club site, and that's 95 miles from my house. Now, there's absolutely no way I'd tow with something that only had a range of something that would just about get me there. So I've seen quite a few tests with the Tesla, and there's this regenerative braking. So on one of the vlogs I watched, towing a trailer, towing downhill, So when it goes downhill, it can basically charge the batteries as it goes along. In any case, when it goes downhill in the Tesla, I noticed that they have, normally in a car, you would have to brake. Well, in the Tesla, going down the hill, towing the trailer, they was having to accelerate. So although it was regenerating the batteries, it was also using batteries to keep the car moving. So all these things that are good things, plus points when not towing, turn into negative things when towing. So if the Tesla is a bit too expensive, you could buy European cars such as Mercedes EQC and the Audi e-tron. Now both those cars, they have a towing limit of, or maximum towing weight of 1800 kilograms, which again could be okay with this Caravan, but the range without towing is about 230 miles. So it seems to be that the range is slashed by about a third when towing. So wouldn't even get 100 miles out of a tow, which is, for me, absolutely unusable unless you're going away just very locally for the weekend. Now, in one of the vlogs I looked at, I'll just get my notes here, they were quite methodical in how they monitored what they were using, which is good. So if I look here, so one guy, he did 217 miles. That was 5 hours and 2 minutes of driving and 3 hours and 7 minutes of charging. Now if we look at somewhere, say for instance when we go to the south of France, we do just about 1,000 miles one way. This guy did when he did 1,000 miles, the total time was 40 hours, 39 hours 54 minutes. Total time driving 29 hours 13 minutes, and total time charging on top of that 14 hours 34 minutes. Now if we did the equivalent to that in our diesel, it would, how long would it take, how long does refueling take? 15 minutes at the most, and we do it 4 times on the way down there, so that's an hour we'd spend charging against 14.5 hours in an electric car. So again, at the moment, completely unusable. So what would need to change for me to consider using an electric car to tow? Well, for a start, batteries have got to get 300% more efficient than they currently are. I mean, I mean 3 hours towing range would be great. Even then, you'd still have an hour and a half recharging time. So recharging times have got to improve. So with a normal combustion engine, as you drive along, you use fuel, so your car gets lighter, so therefore maybe you get more economy as you're driving. Doesn't happen with an electric car. Electric car doesn't get any lighter, so it loses that advantage. Maybe things like recharging with the Caravan attached. What I mean is, if you look at the charging points, now petrol stations don't generally have them. They seem to be in other places. And when you pull up to these charging points, you generally go in nose first. So if you've got a Caravan attached, you then can't really go into one of these parking bays nose first, because your Caravan was sticking out. So that's something else that needs to change, the way that charging facilities are organised. More thoughts? What about when you're towing and you have obviously have the Caravan connected and the fridge on? Does that then drain the car battery down as you're driving, so you get even less range? You'd have to go drive without the fridge on. And we always have the fridge on when we tow. Maybe a solution is to kind of max out the Caravan roof with solar panels and somehow get that charging the car batteries. I mean, then that would increase the weight of the Caravan and would decrease the range. So it's not an easy, I certainly don't have the solutions. Also, from a lot of the vlogs I watched, people tend to turn the air conditioning off in the car to increase the range of the car. Imagine that, 30 degrees and you're towing and you can't have the air conditioning on in the car because you're worried that you're not going to make your destination. So I'll put some links in the description, some of the vlogs that I've watched with testing with the Tesla. Now, one of the things they did say is that they found that every 1 mile they were using 1% of the battery, which is absolutely frightening. And if you're going uphill, obviously it's much, much worse. And a couple of times, if you watch these videos that I'll put, a couple of times they've kind of given up their test and had to send for a diesel car to drive them back and tow the caravan and tow the trailer. So electric cars have got to come a long way yet, I think, before us caravanners would consider them, unless you maybe have something like a GoPro. No, not a GoPro. You might have something like a GoPod, which is 1/3 of the weight of this caravan that I currently got. So I just think that's the only way that, realistically, I mean, that couple that we saw in Hastings with the Tesla Model X, I mean, they must have only come 50 miles. And that's the kind of, that's what you're looking at. If you have an electric, if you have a Tesla, not a Mercedes or an Audi, for example, a European car, with a Tesla, you're limited to, at maximum, I think, 100 miles. I think with the other two, you're probably looking at more like 70 miles towing. Maybe you only go 70 miles on holiday. That's great. You could use one, definitely. Another area of consideration is when you get to the caravan site, how do you charge your car? I mean, can you just plug it into the pitch? Then, I mean, then you're using more electricity, and will prices go up? There's a whole load of things that need considering, and a lot of things, infrastructure, that needs to get a lot better for caravanners to use electric cars. So just to summarise there with electric cars and towing caravans, if you have a small caravan, then you might well get away with an electric car as they are today. If you're only doing small trips of around 50 miles, that could also be okay. Or if you plan your trips very well, again, going back to us going down to France with doing in excess of 1,000 miles, you'd really need to carefully plan your trips. And I mean, if you don't mind it taking you 10 stops, and each of those stops is gonna, you're gonna allow 1.5 hours to charge the battery, possibly. It may well be for you. Like I say, a lot of these charging points don't seem to be in petrol stations, so what you're going to do for the 1.5 hours, I'd have no idea. Anyway, a long way off, I think, although I would really like an electric car. The only option we'd have is to replace Mandy's car, which is 1 litre iGo, with the equivalent electric car. But then really we don't do enough miles to be able to justify. I mean, we probably use £20 a month in petrol on that car, so the outlay for an electric car, even with some of the grants you maybe get, just wouldn't be worth it. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you don't subscribe, please consider it. There'll be a button somewhere around here. Thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and I'm interested obviously to hear about your comments of electric cars. And would you, if the towing range was big enough, I mean, how big would the towing range need to be for you? Again, it's not just the towing range though, is it? It's the amount of time it takes to, I mean, if I had a petrol car that only did 100 miles to the gallon, 100 miles for a tank every refill, then it wouldn't be so bad, apart from the cost. I mean, you'd still only be taking 5 minutes out of every hour. The vlogs I was watching, one guy he reckoned that he'd be doing an hour's driving and then 1.5 hours to recharge. That's not sustainable over a long journey, surely. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
It's alright.
It's Caravan Vlog.
This is quality caravan vlogging.